Prime Minister Boris Johnson has tested positive for the COVID-19 coronavirus. He says, however, he will be continuing to lead the UK's outbreak response. Straight to London, here's Lawrence Lee. Lawrence, how did the announcement come out?
On Twitter, Kamal, by some distance, the most important world leader to have announced he's contracted the virus. The coronavirus, frankly, has the epicenter of it in London, which is the epicenter of the country. The epicenter in London has actually been around Westminster. Several MPs, lots of political journalists, people who work in Whitehall have all said that they've got it. Boris Johnson obviously is in regular contact with all of these people every day, and so obviously on one level you look at it and you think, wow, the Prime Minister's got coronavirus, that's amazing, but also it's not really that it's quite unexpected, expected in a sense. It's not really much of a surprise. Anyway, he said he managed to get through a 2-minute-long video on Twitter without coughing once, which is pretty amazing given that an uncontrollable cough is one of the symptoms. And he said the symptoms were quite mild and he was going to try and carry on. You can judge for yourselves. Here's a clip of the video.
I've developed mild symptoms of the coronavirus, that's to say a temperature and a persistent cough. And on the advice of the chief medical officer, I've taken a test that has come out positive. So I am working from home, I'm self-isolating, and that's entirely the right thing to do, but be in no doubt that I can continue, thanks to the wizardry of modern technology, to communicate with all my top team to lead the national fight back against coronavirus.
So, Lawrence, does that suggest then that Boris Johnson is still in charge? Because I would think usually when the Prime Minister is incapacitated in any way, shape or form, he or she would be, well, there's no technically Deputy Prime Minister in the UK, is there? How would it work?
No, it'd probably be the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, but I don't think it doesn't look that serious unless it gets a lot worse very quickly. And he's, you know, I mean, governments are doing business by video conference nowadays anyway. And so I suspect it's probably not going to be any different. The Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, he's going to have to self-isolate too, because he's the only cabinet minister holding any sort of daily discussions with Boris Johnson. So again, it would be unsurprising if he announced he got it as well at some point in the next few days. The more interesting thing, Kamal, just briefly, it's actually been the public response, because you remember a couple of days ago, Prince Charles announced that he'd got it. A lot of people, rather than expressing concern for Prince Charles, said, well, how come he got tested for the virus when doctors and nurses and the public aren't getting tested? A lot of people, if you look at the Twitter, are now making exactly the same points about Boris Johnson. How come he got a test and other people didn't?
Thank you for all that update from Lawrence Lee there on the news that Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, has tested positive for coronavirus.